Hey, and welcome to the sentencing in the Susan Lorincz trial. This is the trial where a woman blindly pew-pewed through the door and hit her neighbor who were banging on the door because this woman had been in some kind of argument with some children earlier that day. She was found guilty. It's a couple of months ago we were watching this trial. And today is when she's getting her sentencing. She claimed self-defense. The jury didn't find that. So now it's just all about how much is it going to cost. But let's see what the judge said.
I do find that the defense has produced evidence that she would qualify for departure because she has for a mental disorder. I think I find they've proven she has PTSD, which is a recognized mental disorder, and is unrelated to substance abuse or addiction, and that she is amenable to treatment. So I do find she would qualify for that departure. On your second one, the capacity of the defendant to appreciate the criminal nature of the conduct, I don't find there was sufficient evidence to prove that departure. There was no indication that she ever did not understand what she was doing, or that shooting at a person would be against the law, or that she couldn't conform with the law in any way. As a matter of fact, she seemed to be, prior to the shooting, calling the police. So it didn't appear to be any situation where her capacity was impaired in any way. I don't find there's evidence that the victim was the initiator, willing participant, aggressor, or provoker of the incident. Otherwise, although she was knocking loudly in this case, there was no real attempt to get in the residence. She kept asking her to come outside. So I don't find that that departure ground has been met. Despite the existence of one legitimate departure reason, even if she did qualify for the other two departure reasons, I would not depart in this case, because I find that the aggravated nature of this case and this offense and the harm inflicted outweighs the mitigation or the departure when I weigh the totality of the whole case. So I find that the seriousness of the offense outweighs any legal departures that could be applied in this case. I'm primarily looking at the harm inflicted upon not only the victim, who of course lost her life, but her family. She has 4 children, all of whom were present during the offense or somewhere in the general vicinity, or at least home. It certainly will have a traumatic impact on their lives for the rest of their lives. They'll live their whole lives without their mother, which I think is a very significant harm inflicted upon them by Ms. Lorincz. When I look at the nature of the offense, I find that the shooting was completely unnecessary in this case. Ms. Lorincz was behind the door. The door was locked. She had already called law enforcement. They were en route. She knew they were en route. She was in a relatively safe position. For some reason, she went into her room and found a gun. She could have stayed in the room and put another locked door between her and Miss Owens, but she came back out, put herself in front of the door. And at the time she fired the gun through the door, she was safe. Miss Owens was simply, although she was clearly banging loudly and was probably very angry over the whole situation, it appears to be she was mostly demanding that Miss Lorincz come outside, which would indicate she had no indication of coming inside the house. So when Miss Lorincz fired the gun through the door, she did so knowing a person was directly on the other side of the door. And she knew that person wasn't a burglar, she wasn't a robber, she wasn't a rapist. She knew she was probably upset about the interaction with the kids, but she had arguments with her before, and no real harm came other than, I guess, a sign was thrown at her, paper sign. And that's when she decided to shoot. I find that the shooting, when I listened to every aspect of the trial and every aspect of sentencing here, it's the facts don't rise to a murder charge, but they are very aggravated manslaughter. Because this case, the shooting was based, I find, more on anger than fear. And I think that's pretty well established in this case. So when I weigh it out, And believe me, I find that, she's a victim of child sex abuse, was a significant mitigating factor. And she has no criminal record, which is also a significant factor. However, we also have a tremendous harm inflicted upon this family and the victim's family. So what I'm going to do in this case is order she being adjudicated guilty of manslaughter with a firearm, order to serve 25 years in Department of Corrections. With credit for 538 days. It's $100 cost of prosecution, $100 fine, court cost. Good luck to you, ma'am. You have 30 days to appeal. This is the defense requesting the appointment of public.
So, 25 years. As you could clearly see on her mannerisms, she didn't agree with the judge. But we had a long debate about this while the case was going on. My biggest problem was the locked door. And I think that's probably what got her convicted, is that even though the neighbor was banging loudly on the door, she didn't come through the door. And I think that's what got her convicted, and it also meant a lot to the judge in this sentencing. So she will now be serving 25 years with roughly 2 years already spent. And if we're going by the normal rules, she should be out in maybe roughly 16 years. So that's a long time for a lady her age. But I think the jury got it right this time. And I agree with the judge. It wasn't a red rum. It was manslaughter. But this is how much it cost doing rash decisions. I think it was right in this case. But 25 years for Susan Lorincz. I don't know how he get Lorincz out of her last name, but I would call her Lorinzc. But 25 years is what she got from her guilty conviction.